I woke up to sunlight that felt too sharp, slicing across the sheets, dragging me into a morning I wasn't ready to face. The weight came first, the warmth of an arm slung across my waist, fingers curled loosely against my shirt like they belonged there. For a split second, I let myself sink into it, pretend it was the kind of comfort I used to believe in. Then memory caught up. Micah, Daniel's brother. My stomach turned. I sat there frozen, staring at the pale strip of light cutting across the blinds, and the thought came, sharp, poisonous, undeniable, take a photo. My phone was right there on the nightstand. All it would take was one shot. Me in his bed, him pressed against me like he couldn't let go. I could almost hear the message forming in my head, venom sweet on my tongue. Guess who? Yea, the man you left on the altar with your little brother. My hand hovered. The temptation was a live wire, buzzing through me, begging me to finish what I'd started. But I didn't. Instead, I dragged my fingers through my hair, tugging until my scalp prickled. My reflection in the black screen of my phone stared back, unkempt, hollow-eyed, and meaner than I remembered being. When the hell did I become this guy? I muttered, voice catching in my throat. Micah stirred beside me, shifting under the sheets with a faint murmur. I glanced at him, messy hair falling into his eyes, lips parted in sleep, face soft in a way that made him look younger than he was. Innocent, almost. That was the cruelest part, because none of this was innocent. Before he could wake, before I could lose my nerve completely, I slid out of bed and padded quietly across the room. The air was cool against my skin, heavy with the smell of cologne and what we'd done last night. I ran a hand through my hair, heart racing. What the hell am I doing? I wasn't sure if I wanted to laugh, or scream, or crawl back under the covers. Micah's sleepy voice cuts through the stillness of the morning. Don't sneak out, he mumbled, eyes still closed. Stay, I'll make pancakes. However, when I turned to look at him, he was still sleeping, face curled into the pillow in such a way that it almost looked adorable. I quickly caught myself at that thought and grabbed my shirt off the floor, shaking it out with trembling hands. Then head to the door without turning back. The door clicked softly behind me, and all I could think was, what the hell am I doing? The hallway outside his apartment was too quiet, too clean, like it was mocking me. I shoved my arms into my shirt as I walked, trying to shake off the heat of Micah's skin still clinging to mine. Walking home, shirt clinging to my skin, I couldn't stop the question looping in my head. How the hell did I end up here? The answer came easily, like pulling on a thread I'd been avoiding. It began weeks ago, with Maya, my sister, storming into my apartment the way she always did, loud and uninvited, dragging the past with her. Adrian, if you pretend you're not home, I'm kicking this door down. I sighed. Perfect timing, Maya. She let herself in before I could answer. Lipstick half done, hair twisted into a bun that somehow looked accidental and perfect at the same time. She dropped her purse on the counter like she owned the place. You look like hell, she announced, scanning me with a practiced eye. Thanks, I muttered, sinking deeper into the couch. Don't thank me, it's not a compliment. She strutted to the kitchen, grabbed a mug, and poured herself coffee from my half-empty pot. So school reunion tonight? You're coming. I snorted. I'm not. Yes, you are. She sipped like it was the most obvious thing in the world. You've skipped the last two? People already think you moved to Canada or joined a cult. Better than being the main event, I said flatly. Her eyes narrowed. Still? Still. I rubbed my temples, wishing she'd drop it. Do you have any idea what it's like to stand there, waiting, dressed for a future that never came, while everyone whispers, while cameras click because humiliation looks good on Instagram? Her expression softened, but only for a second. That was a year ago, Adrian. Exactly. A year ago, and I'm still the idiot he left standing at the altar. She crossed the room and dropped onto the couch beside me, bumping her shoulder against mine. You know what your problem is? Only one? You're dramatic. You think everyone's still whispering, when in reality, they've moved on. Nobody cares. I barked a bitter laugh. You're wrong. They care. They'll always care. Then prove them wrong. She poked my arm. Show up. Look good. Laugh harder than him. Be hotter than him. I rolled my eyes. Your solution to heartbreak is better lighting? And alcohol. Don't forget alcohol. She grinned, shameless. Despite myself, my mouth twitched. Maya had that effect, dragging me toward life when I wanted to stay buried. Fine, I muttered. But if I get dragged out in handcuffs for assaulting someone with a canapé tray, it's on you. Deal. She drained her coffee and stood, triumphant. Now go shower. You smell like despair. The hotel ballroom that was booked for the reunion smelled of champagne and perfume, that sharp mix of wealth and nostalgia. Laughter bounced off the high ceilings, warm and easy, like nobody here had ever been gutted by love in front of an audience. I froze just past the entrance. My pulse drummed against my ribs, heavy and uneven. Maya's hand found my elbow, firm, steadying. Breathe, she whispered. I am. You're not. You look like you're about to face a firing squad. Same thing. Her laugh was soft but determined, and she tugged me further inside before I could bolt. The hum of voices washed over me. Familiar faces, older but unchanged in essence, drifted past. I recognized some, others only vaguely. But the weight in my chest wasn't nostalgia, it was dread. Then, Adrian? I turned. 2 men and a woman stood by the buffet table, squinting like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Mark, with his same too loud voice. Hannah, hair cut shorter but still glossy and perfect. And Jonah, who I hadn't seen since the days of cheap beer and worse decisions. Holy shit, Mark said, breaking into a grin. I thought you dropped off the planet. Yeah, no one's seen you in, what, years, Hannah added. You look good. The words stung, not because of what they meant, but because of what they didn't. They didn't know. Not about the altar, not about Daniel, not about how I'd been gutted and left for dead in plain sight. Different circles, different gossip lines. They only saw the Adrian who vanished. Guess I needed a break, I said, forcing a shrug, my mouth shaping something like a smile. Jonah clapped my shoulder, too hard, too familiar. Well, shit, it's good to see you back. You missed some wild reunions. Yeah? Nothing worth ditching a whole year over, though, he laughed. Maya's voice cut in, smooth and casual. You don't even know the half of it. I shot her a sharp look, but she only sipped her drink, eyes glittering with mischief. Hannah leaned forward, curious. Wait, what's that supposed to mean? Maya arched a brow. You mean you guys don't know? A pause, awkward but thick with expectation. Know what? Mark asked. Her gaze flicked to me, a question lingering in it. Do you want to tell them or should I? But before I could answer, Hannah gasped and grabbed Mark's arm. Oh my god, is that Daniel? I followed her stare. And there he was. Daniel, my ex-fiancé, standing across the room, dressed sharp in a way that hadn't changed since college. Tailored suit, perfectly careless hair, smile just a little too practiced. But it wasn't his presence that knocked the breath out of me. It was the hand on his shoulder. The stranger beside him leaned in easily, like they belonged together. Tall, confident, with a crooked smile that felt unfamiliar yet disarming. He didn't cling. No, Daniel did the clinging, palm resting possessively, almost proudly. My throat tightened. Maya whispered at my side, almost gleeful. Well, would you look at that? I didn't answer. Couldn't. My body moved before my brain did, carrying me toward the bathroom with a single thought screaming in my head. I can't do this. Hey Daydreamers, thanks for tuning in. If you are liking this story so far, tell us where you are listening from in the comments section and hit the subscribe and notification buttons so you don't miss any story uploads. Let's continue. I shoved through the crowd, nearly knocking into a server before pushing into the nearest bathroom. Cold water. I needed cold water. My reflection in the mirror looked pale, haunted, ridiculous in a suit that suddenly felt like a costume. My hands shook as I braced against the sink. I splashed water on my face, gripping the sink until my knuckles whitened. Get it together. You're fine. You're fine. Then came the unmistakable sound from the last stall. A muffled giggle followed by a low groan. I froze. No. Shh. Someone whispered between laughter. A shoe scraped against the floor, followed by another stifled laugh. Oh, for God's sake, I muttered. Of all the places. The bathroom door creaked open again, and this time someone walked in. I braced myself, already embarrassed on behalf of whoever would discover the comedy show happening in the stall. But instead of recoiling, the newcomer smirked, tilting his head toward the noise. Wow, guess we walked in on a very committed couple. His voice was warm, almost too amused. I glanced at him, and my stomach dropped. It was him, the man with Daniel. Up close, he looked different. Softer somehow, the sharpness of his suit undone by the crooked curve of his smile. His hair was slightly mussed, like he'd run a hand through it one too many times. I stared. He caught me staring. Relax, he said, grinning. I wasn't suggesting we join in. My laugh came out harsher than I meant. Good, because I'm not exactly in the mood for whatever that is. The stall rattled with another stifled giggle. The stranger leaned against the sink beside me. Casual like this was the most normal thing in the world. They should hand out scorecards at reunions, he mused. Drinks, dancing, bad karaoke, and apparently bathroom acrobatics. I shot him a look. Bathroom what? He grinned. What else do you call it? It's not exactly gymnastics, though points for flexibility, I guess. A sharp gasp echoed from behind the stall door, like the universe wanted to underline his joke. This time I laughed, really laughed, and it startled me. I couldn't remember the last time humor didn't feel forced. He caught it too, watching me in the mirror. There it is, he said. There what is? A real laugh. Thought you might have forgotten how. His smile wasn't mocking, it was easy, disarming. I cleared my throat, suddenly too aware of him standing this close. Thanks for the analysis, Dr. Phil. Then his eyes met mine in the mirror. I don't think we've met, Micah. He offered his hand. I hesitated, then took it. Warm, firm, steady. Adrian, he repeated, as if testing the taste of it. He didn't let go too quickly, and my stomach did something I pretended not to notice. The noise from the stall crescendoed into a muffled gasp. Micah leaned closer, voice dropping conspiratorially. Should we clap when they're done? I snorted before I could stop myself. You're evil. Practical. Shared experiences deserve applause. Pretty sure this one doesn't. His smile deepened, and for a second the room felt lighter. Then reality hit me again like a sucker punch. This was Daniel's date. I stepped back, breaking the moment. I should, yeah. Micah tilted his head, studying me, but he didn't push. Maybe I'll see you around. I left without answering. And that was it. For the rest of the night, Daniel and I avoided each other with surgical precision, or he was avoiding me. He stayed at one end of the ballroom, I stayed at the other, pretending to be fascinated by Maya's friends in the open bar. Our social circles had never really crossed anyway. Different faculties, different worlds. It was easy to act like strangers. Almost, because I could feel him, like a shadow just out of sight. And worse, I could feel Micah's gaze too, drifting across the room once or twice, like a quiet question I refused to answer. By the time we left, my head throbbed with unsaid words. Later, in Maya's car, the silence stretched. She broke it casually. "So, you saw Daniel, right?" "Yes." My voice was flat. "And the guy with him?" "His date." Maya gave me a look. "That wasn't a date, genius. That was his brother." "What? You didn't know?" She sounded genuinely surprised. "Most people at the party knew? He never mentioned him?" "No." My chest, no, not that phrase. My breath stuttered instead. "He told me they were estranged. Didn't talk." Maya hummed thoughtfully. That was why he wasn't at the wedding. But it's weird though. Everyone else sure acted like they weren't strangers." Her words rattled around my head the entire drive. "Estranged," he'd said. "Treasured," he meant. I couldn't shake it. Even after we got home, after I tossed my suit jacket over the chair and let the silence of my apartment swallow me, Micah's name looped in my head. Daniel's brother. Except, Daniel once swore he and his brother didn't talk. Estranged, that was the word he'd used, almost like he spat it out. I remember nodding at the time, sympathetic, because who was I to press about family wounds? But then, why the hell did I see them together last night? Not just together. Comfortable. Micah, with his hand brushing Daniel's sleeve like it was the most natural thing in the world. My mind gnawed at it like a bone. What else had Daniel lied about? Had I dated a ghost? Someone who curated which pieces of himself I was allowed to see? It wasn't just the brother thing. The memories lined up like dominoes. How Daniel only ever introduced me to one friend in a whole year. How every time I asked about family, he deflected with that same orphan story. All sad-eyed charm, orphan. I rubbed my temples, pulse hammering. Was that a lie too? Was everything? The note on the altar burned back into my brain, his handwriting sharp, final. I can't do this again. Again. Another word I'd never been able to explain. By the time I realized I'd been pacing for almost an hour, I grabbed my keys and headed to Maya's. If anyone would have picked up scraps from that party, it was her. Maya opened the door in pajama shorts and an oversized t-shirt, hair up in a messy bun. Wow, twice in 1 week. To what do I owe this rare honor? Don't start. I brushed past her, sinking onto the couch. I need information. She narrowed her eyes. This isn't about me forcing you to eat kale chips again, is it? Maya. Fine, fine. She dropped onto the armchair, tucking her legs under her. What's with the CIA energy? I dragged a hand down my face. You mentioned last night that Micah was Daniel's brother. What else did you hear? Her brow furrowed. Not much. Just whispers. But she hopped up suddenly, grabbing her phone from the counter. Hold on. Some guy at the reunion wouldn't stop hitting on me. He said he knew Daniel. Maybe he knows more. I arched an eyebrow. And you actually kept his number? Don't look at me like that. I was bored, and he had nice hair. She dialed, wandering into the kitchen. I only caught fragments of her half of the conversation. Uh-huh. Really? Wait, what? Seriously? Her tone kept rising until she finally ended the call and returned, eyes wide. What? I demanded. You're not gonna like this. Try me. She sat, folding her arms tight. That wasn't just Daniel's brother, Adrian. That was his baby brother. Apparently Micah and Daniel were always close. Like, uncomfortably close. Daniel hovered, guarded him, practically chased off anyone who got too near. The guy said it was a running joke back in college. If you want to piss Daniel off, flirt with Micah. The words landed heavy. Close, I repeated. My jaw tightened. So close Daniel couldn't even admit to Micah what he and I had. So close I was hidden away like a shameful secret. Maya must have seen it on my face because her voice softened. Adrian, don't do this. Don't make him collateral. But the thought had already taken root, dark and steady. If Daniel treasured his brother that much, then sleeping with Micah wasn't just a chance. It was an opportunity. I need this, I whispered. Maybe the only way to close the book on Daniel is to tear out a page he actually cares about. Maya groaned, dragging her hands down her face. You're insane. Absolutely insane. But fine. If you're gonna do this, then at least promise me 2 things. I glanced at her warily. What? 1, that after this so-called closure, you'll let go. For real, move on. And 2, you agree to go on 5 dates with guys I pick. I blinked. That's extortion. It's balance. Her grin broke through, sly and triumphant. You want revenge? Fine, but you also get a shot at moving forward. Non-negotiable. I groaned, pinching the bridge of my nose. You're relentless. I'm your sister. It's in the job description. A beat passed. Then reluctantly I nodded. Fine, 5 dates, but you do the digging first. I need everything about Micah, where he hangs out, what he likes, who he talks to. She smirked, already unlocking her laptop. God help me, I'm enabling you. Maya cracked her knuckles over her laptop like she was about to perform surgery. All right, Operation Stalker Mode, commence. I groaned, leaning back on the couch. Please don't call it that. Oh, come on. You want intel on a guy? And who better than me? I basically have a PhD in finding out embarrassing things about people online. She typed furiously, eyes narrowing as she scrolled. Every few seconds she muttered to herself, wow, no, that haircut should be illegal, while I sat there, strangely restless. It wasn't just the anticipation. It was the fact that ever since the reunion, Micah's face kept intruding into my thoughts, that easy smile in the bathroom, the way he'd leaned in, casual but confident, a warmth that felt nothing like Daniel's careful, polished charm. I shook it off. Focus, this isn't about him, it's about payback. Maya finally spun the screen toward me. Okay, here's what I've got. The profile picture staring back at me was Micah. Messy dark hair, wide grin, a guitar slung across his lap. Photography and music, Maya said, pointing. He plays. A lot, apparently. His Insta's basically half song covers and half dog photos. Dog? Yeah. Big golden retriever. Name's Milo. She clicked again. Also, he hangs out at that indie cafe downtown, you know, the one with the pretentious latte art? And guess what bar he's checked into more than anything? I frowned. The Rusty Anchor? Bingo, that grimy place you swore you'd never set foot in again. She smirked. Looks like you're making a comeback. I skimmed through Micah's photos, trying not to linger but failing anyway. Him laughing with friends, holding Milo in his arms, strumming on that guitar with a furrowed brow, like he was lost in another world. Maya tilted her head, watching me too closely. You're staring. I'm strategizing, I shot back. Strategizing. Is that what we're calling it when your pupils dilate? I scowled. You promised to help me, not psychoanalyze me. Someone's touchy. She closed the laptop with a snap. Okay, so you've got your hunting grounds, a cafe, a bar, and a literal dog park. Which one are you gonna accidentally show up at first? The truth was, I didn't know. Part of me felt dirty even considering it. But another part, the bruised, furious part, clung to the plan like oxygen. I'll figure it out, I muttered. Maya sighed, leaning forward, her voice softer now. Just don't lose yourself in this, okay? Revenge is fun in theory, but people get hurt. I met her gaze, jaw tightening. That's the point. Except even as I said it, Micah's smile flashed through my head again. And for the briefest second I wondered, was it really Daniel I was aiming to hurt? The cafe buzzed with low conversation and the hiss of the espresso machine. I stood in line, pretending to study the chalkboard menu, but my eyes kept darting to the corner table by the window. There he was. Micah. Head bent over a notebook, pen tapping against the page like he was chasing down thoughts before they disappeared. His coffee sat half forgotten beside him, the phone caved in on itself. Milo's leash was hooked to the chair leg, but the dog was nowhere in sight. Maybe outside, maybe home. I almost laughed to myself. Maya said he comes here. And here he is. Like clockwork. My stomach twisted. Not from nerves, I told myself, but from purpose. This is step one. When I finally got my drink, I hesitated only a beat before walking over. He didn't notice me until I spoke. Hey, I said, tipping my head toward the empty chair. The seat taken? Micah looked up, startled at first. Then recognition started on his face with that easy grin spread across his face. Adrian, right? I pretended to be caught off guard, like I hadn't known exactly where he'd be. Yeah, small city, huh? Guess so. He leaned back, stretching out like he owned the place. And no, seat's yours if you want it. I slid into the chair, setting my cup down carefully. Smooth, just casual. Not like you've been rehearsing this in your head for days. So, I said, nodding at his notebook, are you plotting world domination or just writing poetry? He barked out a laugh, pushing the notebook slightly out of sight. Please, I tried poetry in high school. It was so bad even my dog howled. I smirked. That's impressive. Dogs usually eat homework, not critique it. His grin widened. See? That's better than what my teacher said. She just told me to stick to math. The banter came too easily, easier than it should have. I reminded myself why I was here. Daniel. Remember Daniel? But Micah had this way of looking at you, head tilted, eyes sharp and warm at once, like he was genuinely interested in what you'd say next. Daniel never looked at me like that. So what about you? Micah asked, folding his arms on the table. What's your thing? Please don't say poetry. I can't handle the competition. Not poetry, I said quickly. I'm more numbers and design. He raised his brows. Oh, wow. So you're the guy who thinks in straight lines and symmetry. I shrugged. And you're the guy scribbling crooked lines in cafes. Exactly, he said, smiling like I'd gotten the joke right. We'd make a great team. You build something, I'll ruin it with my lyrics. That made me laugh, really laugh, before I caught myself. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Maya's reminder text. Mission, remember? Don't get soft. I pressed the screen dark without answering. Micah was still watching me, curious. Work stuff? Something like that, I said. He nodded, then leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. Well, I'm glad you asked about the seat. This place is better with company. The words stuck with me long after I left, echoing louder than they should have. This is about revenge, I told myself. But as I walked out into the evening air, my chest felt lighter than it had in months, and I hated myself for noticing. But then Friday night rolled around, and I found myself pushing open the door of a bar Maya once teased me for never stepping into. And there he was again. Like the universe didn't believe in subtlety. Micah, perched on a high stool, laughing at something the bartender said, his glass catching the low amber light. I hesitated for half a second. Then I remembered the way his smile had lingered when we parted at the cafe, and before I could second-guess myself, I crossed the room. Didn't peg you for the bar scene, I said, sliding onto the stool beside him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Micah turned, his grin instant. Adrian, twice in 1 week? If I didn't know better, I'd say you're following me. I smirked, raising my glass, and if I didn't know better, I'd say you're flattered. He laughed, that easy, throaty laugh that drew looks from a couple people nearby. Tache, what's your poison tonight? Whiskey. Straight. Classic, he said, lifting his beer in mock salute. I'm simple, cheaper that way. The banner flowed easier than it should have. Too easy. I leaned back, studying him. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, a wristband dangling loose from his arm. There was ink on his fingers, like he'd been sketching lyrics again before coming here. "So," Micah said after a sip, "what's the real story? 2 random run-ins in 1 week? Or are you secretly obsessed with me?" I met his eyes, unflinching. "What if I am?" He blinked, then laughed, shaking his head. "Man, you don't play around." The edge of flirtation sharpened between us, invisible but undeniable. The music dipped into a slower beat, as if conspiring. Micah leaned closer. "Careful, I might start thinking you actually like me." I thought of Daniel then. Daniel with his hand on Micah's shoulder at the reunion. Daniel who once swore he was estranged from his brother. The lie twisted bitterly in my chest. "This isn't about liking," I said, though my voice came out lower than I meant. Micah tilted his head, curious, almost amused. "You always this mysterious?" "Maybe I just don't waste words." He chuckled, downing the rest of his beer. "Dangerous, and kind of hot." By the time the second round hit, our conversation had loosened into teasing stories. His about band practice disasters, mine about clients with impossible design ideas. We laughed too loudly, our shoulders brushing every time one of us leaned in. When he suggested one more drink at his place, I didn't hesitate. When we got to his apartment, it was smaller than I expected, but alive with him. A guitar leaned against the couch, sheet music scattered on the coffee table, a line of different cameras by the window. "Sorry about the mess," he said, tossing his keys aside. "Creative genius is chaotic, apparently." "It's lived in," I said, setting my glass down. He smirked. "That's the polite way of saying disaster zone." We were laughing when he moved closer, standing a breath away. His hand hovered at my jaw, not quite touching. "You're hard to read, you know that?" he murmured. "Good," I said. "Keeps things interesting." That was all the space he needed. His mouth pressed against mine, sudden and warm, tasting faintly of beer and something sweeter. I told myself I kissed him back because it fit the plan, because this was the opening I'd been waiting for. But the truth was messier. His kiss wasn't Daniel's. It wasn't practiced or demanding. It was searching, open, like he wanted to learn me. The night blurred into heat and motion, clothes tugged away, laughter muffled against skin, whispers slipping out between half-drunken kisses. It wasn't careful. It wasn't neat. It was fire lit too fast, too close, and I let it burn. When it was over, I lay on his sheets staring at the ceiling, his breathing slow beside me. My plan echoed in my head like a cruel mantra. This will break Daniel. This will destroy him. So why did I feel like the one unraveling? And that's how I got here. I sat with a picture of Micah and me on his bed. I could just send this picture to Daniel and be done with it. It wasn't really for revenge, it's mostly to get Daniel running to me. To see me so we could talk, so I could ask the question. Why did he do that? Why did he lie to me? Why did he lead me on? Why did he agree to marry me if he knew he was going to leave me at the altar? What did I do so wrong to deserve that level of cruelty? But for some reason, I didn't. Instead, I shot my phone and went to take a much-needed shower. Micah didn't wait long. 2 days after the bar, my phone buzzed with his name. A name I'd saved without even realizing. Coffee tastes better with company. Don't tell me you're one of those people who drinks alone. I stared at the text longer than I should have. Part of me wanted to laugh at the audacity. Another part wanted to throw my phone across the room. He wasn't supposed to chase me. I was supposed to chase him just far enough to get what I wanted. And yet, my thumbs betrayed me. Depends. Who's buying? A reply came instantly. I'll buy the first cup, you'll buy the second. Deal? A normal person would have ignored it. A man with a clear head would have deleted his number, reminded himself this was Daniel's little brother, Daniel's precious little brother, and walked away. But normal men don't get left standing at an altar, and clear heads don't plot revenge at coffee shops. Deal, I typed back. Micah was already there when I walked in. Hair still a little messy, a pen stuck behind his ear, a coffee half drunk in front of him. He looked up and his grin was instant, wide, and shameless. Well, look who actually showed up, he said. Figured you'd ghost me after bailing on pancakes. I blinked. You remember the pancakes? Of course I do. I offered you breakfast in bed. You practically sprinted out the door. He leaned back, arms crossing, a mock wounded expression on his face. Do you always leave your one-night stands before carbs? That's cold, man. Heat prickled at the back of my neck. I don't. It's not. He smirked. Relax, I'm teasing. But seriously, you could have stayed. Stayed. Like it was that easy. Like lying in his sheets wouldn't have drowned me in guilt and memories I had no business digging up. Instead of answering, I sat across from him, tugging my jacket tighter. I figured it'd be less awkward this way. Newsflash, he said, sipping his coffee. Still awkward. I rolled my eyes, but the corner of my mouth betrayed me, twitching up. You're impossible. We sat. For a while, the air between us carried a strange mix. Light enough to tease, heavy enough to know there was more underneath. Micah stirred his coffee like it had secrets, then glanced up. So, what do you actually do, Adrian, besides vanishing at inconvenient times? Architect, I said with a shrug that was meant to sound casual, which basically means I spend most of my time arguing with clients who think Pinterest makes them experts. His lips curved. So you're a dream builder. More like a dream destroyer. You'd be shocked how many people think they can fit a pool, home theater, and yoga studio into a townhouse the size of a shoebox. He chuckled, eyes bright. Still, it suits you. All neat lines, all order. You seem like the type who hates when a picture frame hangs crooked. Because it's wrong, I retorted before I could stop myself. His laugh burst out loud, unbothered, drawing a few stares from nearby tables. He didn't care. And somehow, I didn't either. We drifted, easy as breathing. He talked about freelancing with photography on the side, about getting lost in the streets just to find the best light. He teased the way I carried myself like I had a blueprint hidden somewhere in my pocket. I needed to deflect. What about you? Besides haunting cafes and guilting strangers over skipped pancakes. He brightened instantly. Photography. Weddings, mostly. I tilted my head. Weddings? That suits you. It's not as romantic as it sounds, Micah said, fiddling with the sleeve of his hoodie. Sometimes it's beautiful. Sometimes it's just exhausting. But freezing moments, I like that part. There was something in his voice, wistful, a little bruised. I should have left it there. But instead I asked, family ever ask you to do theirs? The air shifted, just a fraction. He hesitated, then said, not really. My brother's not big on family photos. My chest went still. You've got a brother? Yes, older brother, he said, sipping his coffee. Total control freak. Always thought he knew what was best for me. Still does, actually. I froze. My fingers tightened around my cup. Older brother, I echoed, trying to keep my tone neutral. You too close? He nodded. Yeah. I mean, we fight like hell sometimes, but he's always been protective. Overprotective, honestly. When I was in college, he practically threatened every guy who even thought about asking me out. Said none of them were good enough. I guess he still sees me as the kid brother he needs to keep safe. My chest went hot and cold all at once. Protective. Treasuring. That's what Maya had said. And yet, he hadn't said my name. He didn't know. Daniel never told him about me. Not about us. Not about the proposal. Not about the altar. He erased me. I forced a smile through the storm rising in me. Sounds like a lot. Micah shrugged, softer now. Yeah, well, that's brothers for you. Sometimes it feels like I'm living in his shadow, but he means well. I studied him then. Really studied him. The easy grin, the restless hands, the way he kept leaning forward like the world might vanish if he didn't grab it fast enough. If it weren't for my motive, if it weren't for the ghost of his brother standing between us, Micah was exactly the kind of man I'd fall for. The kind of man I'd want pancakes with in the morning. That thought terrified me more than anything. The silence stretched. Then he broke it, voice quieter, more careful. Listen, I hope I'm not coming off too strong. I like talking to you. I liked the other night too. I wouldn't mind hanging out again. Or, you know? His mouth tilted, suggestive but shy all at once. Not just hanging out. The floor beneath me felt unsteady. The revenge plan, the bitter satisfaction I thought I wanted, it suddenly looked fragile next to the way he was looking at me. I swallowed hard, leaned back in my chair, and told myself this was just the beginning. Just another step toward the payback I deserved. But my traitorous heart whispered, or the beginning of something else entirely. When Micah said it, I wouldn't mind hanging out again. Not just hanging out, it lingered longer than I wanted it to. I gave a half smile, muttered something safe like, we'll see, and left before his eyes could dig too deep. But the truth? His words followed me, out of the cafe, down the street, into the silence of my apartment. By the time night settled in, I couldn't shake it. He doesn't even know. He doesn't know who I am to his brother. He doesn't know what his brother did to me. It was like being erased twice. First by Daniel, who couldn't even admit to his own flesh and blood that we existed. And now by the universe, dangling Micah in front of me like some cruel reminder that even Daniel's shadows had more light than I did. By the next morning, I found myself outside Maya's apartment door, coffee in hand like a peace offering. She opened the door barefoot, hair pulled up in a messy bun, wearing a t-shirt that said dog hair, don't care. You look like crap, she said instead of hello. Nice to see you too, I muttered, walking past her into the cluttered warmth of her living room. It was supposed to be movie night. Pizza boxes on the coffee table, a bowl of popcorn going stale between us, some action flick blaring explosions across the screen. But Maya wasn't watching the movie. She was watching me. Specifically, she was watching me try and fail not to smile at my phone. Who's that? She asked, too casually. I quickly set the phone face down, reaching for popcorn I didn't want. No one. Uh-huh. Her eyes narrowed, feline sharp. So you no one smile like that often? I ignored her, but she snatched my phone before I could stop her. One glance and her eyebrows shot up. A dog picture? Wow. You've really fallen, haven't you? I snatched it back, heat crawling up my neck. It's just a dog. You don't really like dogs. It's a very nice dog. She muted the TV, turned fully toward me. Her voice lost its teasing edge. Adrian, is this Micah? Silence was answer enough. Her sigh was long, tired, like she'd aged 10 years in a breath. How's the plan going then? You've got what you wanted, right? Access, attention, proof. So why are you smiling at dog pictures instead of plotting your big revenge? I didn't reply right away, because the truth was ugly. I'd been checking my phone like a teenager, waiting for Micah's messages. Finally, I said, I need him to get Daniel back to me. If I send him a picture of me and Micah together, Daniel will show. He'll have to. Maya stared at me. You're serious? I never got an answer, I snapped, the words rougher than I meant. He left me at the altar with nothing but a note, Maya, then vanished, blocked my number, erased me. Do you know what that's like? To stand there humiliated in front of everyone you love and then never even get the decency of an explanation? Her face softened, but her voice stayed firm. I know you want closure. I know you think this is the only way to get it. But dragging Micah into it? That's not closure, Adrian. That's collateral damage. I leaned back, raking a hand through my hair. You don't understand. If Daniel really treasures him, then using Micah is the only way to make him face me. He can't ignore me if I have the one thing he cares about. And what if you're wrong? She countered quietly. What if Daniel doesn't care? What if Micah's just left holding the pieces when you're done? Her words hit harder than I wanted them to. I looked at the phone, still warm in my palm, at the stupid little picture of Micah's golden retriever wearing a crooked bandana. He'd sent it with the caption, "She likes you, and she doesn't like most people." I'd smiled without meaning to. Maya's gaze softened. From what I've heard, Micah's a good kid, different from his brother. Don't hurt him because you're still bleeding. I didn't answer. Couldn't, because in the quiet corners of my mind, I knew she was right. Micah wasn't Daniel. He didn't carry the same sharp edges or selfish shadows. He was warmth and humor, and I shut the thought down before it could finish. I just want answers, I muttered instead. Then get them, Maya said firmly. But don't destroy someone who doesn't deserve it along the way. Her words lingered long after the movie credits rolled. And when Micah texted me again that night, something simple, a photo of the beer he was drinking, captioned "Your turn to pick the bar next time," I caught myself smiling again. Only this time, the smile felt heavier, like it belonged to someone else. I'd already picked the bar, set the time, cleared my schedule for the night. It should have been simple. Another drink, another flirtation, one more step toward tightening the rope around Micah's neck. But instead, my phone buzzed an hour before we were supposed to meet. Sorry, can't make it. Bailey's sick. Taking her to the vet. I stared at the message longer than I should have. It was an out, really. I could have said no problem, see you next time, and stayed in the safety of distance. Instead, I typed, "Where? I'll meet you." When I walked into the vet's office, the smell of disinfectant and wet fur hit me. Micah sat in the corner, Bailey's head across his lap. He looked smaller than usual, shoulders hunched, hands stroking the dog's ear like he was holding her together by touch alone. He looked up when I stopped beside him. The relief on his face was instant, softening every sharp edge. "Adrian, you didn't have to come. I wanted to," I heard myself say. The appointment passed in a blur, some talk of stomach meds, nothing life-threatening. What I remember is Micah's hand tangled in Bailey's collar like he couldn't let go, the way his voice broke when he asked the vet too many questions. Back at his apartment, he spread a blanket on the couch for Bailey, crouching down to kiss her head before straightening. His place was warm, lived in. A mess of books stacked under the window, a coffee mug with brushes poking out, sketches pinned haphazardly to the fridge. "She wasn't supposed to be mine," Micah said suddenly, still watching the dog. "She was Mom's. She wanted me to have company when I left home. Then..." His words faltered. "She and Dad died not long after. Car crash. It's been 7 years. The air thickened, pressing on my chest. Daniel had said they were orphans. That much was true. But the rest, the estrangement, the excuses, none of it lined up. I'm sorry," I said quietly. And before I thought better of it, I reached out, resting a hand on his shoulder. He turned, eyes glassy, and for a second, I forgot every reason I'd told myself to keep distance. I pulled him into a hug. He didn't resist. He just leaned in like he'd been holding himself up all evening and finally let someone else do it for him. When I finally pulled away, I turned to leave, reaching for the door. I thought that was the end of it. A decent thing done. Nothing more. But then his hand closed over mine, stopping me. "Adrian." I turned. His face was close, too close, and his voice was unsteady. I can't stop thinking about that night. "Micah," but his lips are on me before I could finish. Soft at first, tentative, then firmer when I didn't pull back. My mind screamed at me to stop, to remember why I was here. But his mouth was warm and searching, and my body betrayed me. He broke away just enough to whisper, "I don't usually do this, but with you, I don't want it to be just one night." Something in me cracked. "Then let's not," I murmured, pulling him back. The second kiss was hungrier, stripping away hesitation. By the time we stumbled toward his bedroom, reason was gone, replaced by heat and want, and the dangerous comfort of his hands on me, like he knew exactly where I was breaking. Later, tangled in sheets and silence, his breath tickling my neck, I stared at the ceiling and admitted the thought I'd been running from all night. If I wasn't here for revenge, Micah was definitely the kind of man I could fall for. For the first time in a long time, I woke up without that familiar weight in my chest. Instead, warmth spread across my skin, the weight of Micah's arms slung lazily over my waist, his breath brushing the back of my neck. God, it was dangerous. The way he fit against me like he belonged there. I could almost believe he did. Micah murmured, lips brushing the curve of my shoulder. His hand slipped under the covers, bold in a way it hadn't been last night. "Good morning." I chuckled, but it came out hoarse. "Is this how you wake all your one-night stands?" "Only the ones I want to keep around." He bit lightly at my shoulder, playful, and then slid lower, his kisses trailing heat down my spine. Any coherent thought vanished after that. By the time we stumbled into the kitchen, me flushed, him grinning and half-dressed, Micah was practically glowing. Pancakes, he announced like a promise, rifling through his cabinets. I owe you. Sit. Don't move. Chef's orders. I dropped onto the couch, still catching my breath, watching him move around his kitchen with this easy, messy joy. It shouldn't have hit me the way it did. But it did. Hard. And that's when it started. The creeping guilt, the quiet, relentless voice in my head. I could send Daniel the pictures. End this. Force a meeting. Closure. But looking at Micah's stupid grin as he cracked eggs into a bowl, I didn't want to. Not anymore. Maybe I could just let it go. Let Daniel rot in whatever twisted corner he crawled into, and let myself have this. Have Micah. I pressed a hand to my chest, like I could steady the traitorous thrum of my heart. I need to tell him the truth. Before this gets deeper. Before I lose myself in him completely. The thought followed me into the shower. Steam, soap, the hum of water. It didn't wash away the gnawing fear that maybe I was too late. I wrapped a towel around my waist, rehearsing the words I'd say when I told Micah everything. He deserved the truth. But when I walked back into the kitchen, everything shattered. Because standing there, arms crossed, face carved with anger I knew too well, was Daniel. For a second, the world tilted. My towel slipped an inch before I caught it. Micah froze with a spatula in his hand, eyes darting between us. Daniel? I rasped. He turned, shocked, his voice coming out sharp, bitter. What the hell are you doing here? His gaze cut me open. Micah, holding a spatula, froze between them. Wait, you two know each other? Daniel cut him off with a bitter laugh. Know each other? He left me at the altar. I was stunned and only muttered what. At the same time, Micah saying, what altar? Daniel's eyes never left mine. What are you doing here in my brother's apartment? Half naked. His voice dripped venom. You couldn't get enough of ruining me, Adrian? Had to drag Micah into it too? Daniel, stop. My voice cracked. You don't get to play the victim here. Don't twist this. You're the one who left me. You walked out without a word and blocked me from your life like I was nothing. And now you show up here. Micah set the spatula down slowly. Okay, time out. What the hell is going on here? Daniel let out a laugh, cold, humorless. He didn't tell you? Micah looked at me then, confusion etched in every line of his face. Tell me what? My throat locked. Daniel stepped closer, reveling in it. Adrian isn't just some guy you picked up at a reunion, Micah. He's my ex, my fiancé. Well, the one I left at the altar. The room went silent. Micah went pale, like the blood drained straight out of him. His lips parted, but no sound came out at first. Then, quietly, like a punch to the gut, you were engaged? I swallowed hard. Yes. Daniel smirked. Oh, it gets better. He's here because of me. This, he gestured between us cruelly, is revenge. Adrian knows screwing you makes us even. Daniel, shut the hell up. I snapped, but Micah stepped back from me, like I'd struck him. Is that true? My chest caved. At first, yes, I was angry. I wanted to hurt him the way he hurt me. But then, unbelievable. Micah's voice cracked. He turned to Daniel, fury igniting. And you told me not to go near him in college. Said he was in some abusive relationship. That I didn't stand a chance. All that time you were lying? Cause you want him for yourself? Daniel's smugness faltered. Micah, I was protecting you. Protecting me? Micah's voice rose, raw with rage. You stole from me. Again. Just like always. Every time I wanted something, you had to take it. Friends, opportunities. You knew I liked him. His hands shook as he jabbed a finger at Daniel. You don't get to call that protection? You don't get to keep poisoning my life because you're jealous and toxic and can't stand me having anything that isn't yours. Stop being dramatic, Daniel snapped, and Micah was pissed, fury in his voice when he spoke next. Dramatic? Micah's hands clenched. Do you even hear yourself? You sabotaged me just to keep me small. You left him at the altar and still managed to make it about you. Daniel opened his mouth, but Micah's roar cut him off. Get out, Micah hissed. His voice had gone low, dangerous. This ends now. You don't get to be in my life if this is what you do. Daniel's eyes flickered, something dark flashing there, but Micah's glare held. With a bitter curse, Daniel shoved past Adrian and slammed the door on his way out. The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. Daniel's jaw ticked, but he didn't argue. He just gave me one last poisonous look and walked out. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. The quiet afterward was suffocating. Micah turned to me, and the devastation in his eyes gutted me more than Daniel's cruelty ever had. I reached for him, my hand half lifted before I even realized it. Micah. He turned so fast it felt like a slap, his eyes blazing with hurt. That look alone froze me in place. So you approached me to get back at him? That's what this was? The question punched through my chest. My mouth opened, closed, opened again. My throat worked, raw, and I hated how small my voice sounded. At first, yes, but it's not anymore. I swear to you. Don't. His voice cracked, thick with tears, and I felt the ground tilting beneath me. Don't stand there and tell me this is different. Maybe it is for you, but for me? His breath stuttered. This is hell. You were the one person I thought. His words broke, the rest swallowed by silence. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt carved out. Micah, please, just listen. He shook his head, a single tear tracing down his cheek. The sight of it cut deeper than Daniel ever had. Well, congratulations, he whispered, his voice sharp and broken all at once. You got your closure or your revenge. Whatever it was. Now get out of my house. The words hollowed me out, like someone had scooped everything from inside and left me standing there, empty. Every instinct screamed to stay, to fight, to throw the truth between us until it made sense. But the way he looked at me, like I was nothing more than another wound carved into him, left no space for anything. So I turned. Rushing to put on my clothes, my legs moved before my heart was ready. And when the door clicked shut behind me, it sounded final, like dirt falling onto a grave. And this time, the weight in my chest was worse than the day I was left at the altar. Because I'd done this. I'd become the very thing I hated. I'd been staring at my phone for 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of watching the same unread message glare at me like proof that I'd burned down something I didn't even know I wanted until it was gone. Micah hadn't replied. I kept scrolling back anyway like some kind of masochist. His last text sat there, simple, warm, devastating. He's finally asleep. You wore him out. Pancakes soon, promise. Bailey's floppy-eared photo was still attached. A dog I'd tucked into bed. A night that had felt like something real. Now every time I looked at it, it was like pressing a bruise. The silence was worse than any screaming match. Daniel's betrayal, the altar, the humiliation, those at least had noise. This was just nothing. And nothing hollowed me out from the inside. The knock at my door almost made me jump. I considered ignoring it until Maya's voice slid through the wood. Adrian, I can hear you sulking. Open up before I kick this thing down. I sighed, dragging myself up and unlocking it. She swept in, grocery bag on one arm like she was moving into my disaster of an apartment. Her eyes took one sweep of me, then the mess. Wow, you look like hell. Correction, you look like hell's been chewing on you. I collapsed onto the couch again. Good to see you too. She plopped down beside me, pulled out a tub of ice cream and jabbed a spoon in my direction. So, how's the grand revenge plan going? I flinched. My throat was already tight. Don't. Her expression shifted, softer but still sharp. I saw you smiling at your phone last week, right before it all went nuclear. Don't pretend you didn't care. My chest caved. I pressed a hand over my face, the words clawing up anyway. I should have left it alone. The second I saw Daniel at that reunion, I should have just walked away. Instead, I had to play games. I had to. I shook my head, voice cracking. And now it's worse. He hates me. And I deserve it. Maya was quiet, the kind of silence where I could feel her weighing whether to hug me or slap me. You do deserve the fallout, she said finally. But you don't deserve to bleed forever. You were hurt. You were desperate for answers. And maybe you went about it in the dumbest way possible. Thanks. But I know you, she went on, nudging me with her shoulder. If all you wanted was revenge, you would have sent that picture to Daniel the first night. But you didn't. Because you actually liked Micah. The sound of his name in her mouth was a knife. I tipped my head back against the couch, blinking hard. Maya, I don't just like him. My voice broke off, useless. My chest felt raw. It was different. It was like breathing again. And now it's ruined. Her voice softened. So make it right. I laughed, bitter and shaky. You think it's that easy? No, she said flatly. But closure doesn't come from hiding in this cave and waiting for the ghosts to leave you alone. You want to heal? You face it. You tell him the truth. Not for Daniel. Not for revenge. For you. For him. Her words pressed against all the hollow parts of me. And she was right. God help me. She was right. Micah deserved honesty. He deserved more than the half-truths and manipulation I'd handed him, and maybe I deserved to stop rotting from wounds Daniel left years ago. I exhaled, my voice barely above a whisper. Then I'll tell him. Everything. Even if he never wants to see me again. Maya reached over and took my hand, firm and warm. Good. But do me a favor? I looked at her. What? Her eyes pinned me, sharp as a blade. Don't you dare hurt him again. That kid's heart is too good, Adrian. And you, her mouth curved knowingly, you're already halfway in love with him. I didn't deny it. Couldn't. The silence between us said enough. Maya's words didn't leave me alone. They dug in, replayed, and grew teeth. Halfway in love already, she'd said. And damn it, she was right. Which meant sitting in the wreckage, waiting for Micah to come to me, wasn't an option anymore. He'd been avoiding me since that morning, ignoring my calls, reading my texts, but never answering. He hadn't blocked me, though. And call me crazy, but to me, that meant the door wasn't completely shut. Just locked. And if there was one thing I was determined to do, it was to pry my way back in and get him to hear me out, even if it killed me. So I started with his building. I told myself I was just going for a walk, that my feet happened to take the long route that ended on his street, that the coffee in my hand was just coffee, not courage. But the truth, I was already halfway up the stairs before I even admitted what I was doing. I knocked, waited, knocked again. Counting seconds like that might make me less pathetic. No answer. I called. It rang, then stopped. No voicemail, not blocked, just silence. A silence that told me he was there, choosing not to answer. The little read receipts on our thread sat there like a taunt. Seen. Nothing. So I tried the cafe. His usual corner table was occupied by some kid with too many highlighters. I bought a drink I didn't want and sat long enough for the ice to melt, staring at the empty space where his chair should have been. Told myself I'd try again tomorrow. Tomorrow stretched into days. I went back to his building with a bag of croissants, like I could bribe fate with pastry. I waited 2 hours in that hallway, learning the rhythm of the place. The elevator's cough. The neighbor laughed. The shuffle of footsteps that weren't his. Bailey's bark, muffled and uncertain, came from the other side of the door. And then I sat, back against the wall, bag by my side, heart beating louder than it should. If he wanted me gone, he'd outlast me. But if there was any chance at all, then I needed to put words where my silence had wrecked us. So I pulled out the crumpled sheet of paper I'd been carrying like a shield. Scribbled the only thing that felt true. I'm sorry. And if croissants can't fix this, maybe sarcasm can. So here's one for free. You're an ass for making me sit in this hallway like some lovesick extra in a bad rom-com. P.S. If you don't open the door, I'm going to recite my thesis on cantilevers out here, and your neighbor's fern already looks disappointed in me. I slid the note under his door and waited. 30 minutes ticked by like wet rope. I was about to leave when the deadbolt clicked. The door opened. Micah looked tired. Not wrecked, not furious, just worn down to something quiet. Bailey nosed my knee and sneezed like she'd been personally offended by my absence. The door opened halfway, Micah leaning against the frame, arms crossed, eyes heavy with exhaustion and something sharper underneath. You're still here, he said flatly. I swallowed, tried for a smile that didn't land. Yeah, croissants? Top-tier bribe material, or so I've heard. His gaze flicked to the paper bag at my side, then back to me. No humor, just tired. Adrian, what are you doing? I don't know, I admitted, pushing to my feet. Trying, screwing up, trying again, that's the best I've got. He didn't move, didn't step aside, but he didn't close the door either. That was something. Look, I said, words spilling before I could stop them. I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to hear me, just once. And if you never want to see me again after that, I'll go. I'll mean it this time. A long silence stretched between us. Then, finally, he opened the door wider and stepped back. 5 minutes. Inside it smelled like coffee and dog. Bailey lifted his head from the couch, tail thumping, and I had the ridiculous urge to thank him for not hating me too. Micah sat down at the edge of an armchair, arms still crossed. Guard up. Go on. I rubbed the back of my neck, pacing once before forcing myself to sit across from him. My hands wouldn't stay still. I was angry. At your brother, at myself, at everything. And when I ran into you, I told myself it was chance, but I made it more than that. I used it. I used you. And I'm sorry. I'm so freaking sorry, Micah. His jaw worked, but he stayed quiet. I didn't expect. My voice cracked, and I swallowed. I didn't expect you to matter, to make me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how, to make me want to stay in a morning I'd usually run from. And I swear to you, I don't want revenge anymore. I just want you to know the truth. Micah's arms loosened. Bailey thumped her tail against my shin, a metronome for a rhythm I couldn't find. Micah looked at her, then at me, as if deciding which one of us he trusted more. Instead, he asked quietly, "Do you know the first time I saw you?" I responded, "At the reunion?" "No," he said, finally meeting my eyes. "Your graduation ceremony. You were on the stage, cap crooked, grinning like you owned the world." And I thought, God, he is just my type. I told myself I'd go say hi during the reception. Then I didn't, because I overthink everything. I asked Daniel about you a few days later. A mirthless laugh. He said you were taken. He said the guy you were with was possessive, controlling. He said to stay away. A cold spot opened behind my ribs. He knew you liked me. He always knows. Micah rubbed the back of his neck. Every time I want something, he puts a fence around it and calls it protection. When I saw you at the reunion, I thought maybe I'd stop letting other people decide my life for me. I took a shot because it was you, because I wanted to for years. His eyes found mine, unflinching. I am really not the kind of guy who jumps into bed with a person I've only seen 3 times. The words landed like a punch. Micah? Silence stretched, not comfortable, not hostile, just full. He broke it with a sigh. He came by after everything blew up. Daniel called, knocked, did the whole wounded brother routine at my door. I told him I was done. His jaw sharpened. He crossed a line he's been towing for years. My chest felt too small for my ribs. I didn't know, I swear I didn't. I believe you. His voice softened, just a little. But it doesn't erase what happened. No, I said quickly. It doesn't, but I need you to know. I'm not him. I never wanted to hurt you. Not you. We sat in silence a long time, Bailey's quiet breathing filling the space. Then Micah sighed, shoulders sagging like he'd finally put a weight down. I'm sorry too, he murmured, for what Daniel did, for not knowing, for all of it. I never thought he was serious with anyone. He cheated so much, I thought maybe it was just another fling. I didn't know he was. He broke off, shaking his head. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry it was my family that did it to you. I am sorry too. I let the admission sit between us. I also messed up. I'm not asking you to pretend it didn't happen. If forgiveness is too big, I'll take anything smaller. I like you, Micah, a lot. It's ridiculous how much. I know that doesn't undo the harm, but if there's a version of this where I earn back even a sliver of your trust, I'll do the work. And if we can't be anything else, I'd still be glad, more than glad, if we could be friends. That got a small smile out of him, faint but real. Friends, he echoed. I can do that, and if you lie to me again, that's it. Relief didn't crash over me. I nodded, forcing myself to stand even though every nerve screamed to stay. Good. Then, I'll see you around. Walking out this time didn't feel like being gutted. It felt like putting one brick down after carrying the whole damn wall. Maybe this was closure, maybe it was a beginning. Maybe it was both. A week later, I was at a bar pretending to enjoy a whiskey I'd ordered because the bartender said it had character. I was half listening to a playlist that couldn't decide between heartbreak and danceable self-loathing when a fresh glass slid across the counter to my elbow. "From the gentleman at your 3 o'clock, the bartender said, amused. I turned. Micah leaned on the other end of the bar, a grin playing at the corner of his mouth. He raised his glass in a small salute, then walked over, slow and entirely too confident for a man who once tripped over his own dog leash. "Hey," he said, voice dropping into something playfully sinful. "Mind if I buy you a drink?" I couldn't help it, I laughed. "You already did." "True," he said, unbothered. He straightened, serious and ridiculous at once. "Hi, I'm Micah. I think you're very, very attractive. Would you want to come to my place after this?" "That is so corny," I said, grinning despite myself. He laughed, cheeks reddening. "I'm serious, though." I took a sip of the whiskey he'd sent and set the glass down between us like a marker. "It would be my pleasure." He exhaled, that old bright grin breaking free. We didn't rush the drinks. We didn't pretend nothing had happened. We stood shoulder to shoulder at the bar, talking about nothing and everything. And for once, my heart didn't feel like it had to brace. We left the bar with laughter still chasing our heels, the night air cool against flushed skin. Before I could even form a thought, Micah's hand found mine. Firm, insistent, and he tugged me down the street like he'd already made up his mind. By the time we reached his building, my chest was a riot of nerves and relief. The door clicked shut behind us and then his lips crashed into mine. Urgent, hungry, nothing like the hesitant kisses before. And this time I gave in. No guilt. No restraint. No heaviness pressing between us. No hidden agenda coiled beneath my ribs. Just the truth of wanting him. I was going to make this work with him. For real. For the first time in years, I wasn't going to cling to the wreckage of the past. I was stepping into something new. Something ours. And I wasn't letting go. Thanks for listening to the story Closure. If you enjoy this story, share your enthusiasm in the comment section, and don't forget to hit the subscribe and notification buttons so you don't miss any story uploads. See you in the next one.